over 2,700 confirmed cases of Ebola within its borders, it's small wonder that the people in the nation of Liberia are going into panic mode. However, what may not have been expected is the way the Catholic and Anglican churches of a West African nation have glommed onto the spread of the disease to reignite anti-gay animus. Homosexual sex is already punishable under the law, and in 2012 the Liberian Senate discussed a bill which would have made sodomy a capital offense. However, violence against gays has escalated in recent months, and the new spate of attacks can be directly linked to the rhetoric espoused from Liberian pulpits and even in the press. In a statement to Liberian media, the Archbishop of the Catholic Church of Liberia, Louis Ziegler, said, "Where are we going as Liberians if we are advocating for homosexuality? Are we not calling for curses upon ourselves? These ideas, which are wholly unsupported by scientific and medical research, have caused terror amongst the Liberian gay community." As Leroy Ponpon, a gay resident of Monrovia, said, "Since church ministers declared Ebola was a plague sent by God to punish sodomy in Liberia, the violence towards gays has escalated. They're even asking for the death penalty. We are living in fear." In Roman Catholicism, the concept of original sin is not that humankind directly inherits the consequences of the fall of Adam as related in the book of Genesis. Rather, Catholic teaching says that since Adam sacrificed his innocent and holy nature in the Garden of Eden, he denied his progeny the grace of that perfection and the holiness which God had imbued upon him, effectively altering human nature to allow for a sinful character. In other words, the reason for the Catholic Church, the redemption of Christ, and the baptism of the devout is directly rooted in a literal interpretation of the biblical six-day creation account. The Church has been struggling to justify this position for years and has been forced into linguistic and philosophical gymnastics to defend it. Nowhere has this science denial been more demonstrable than in the Inquisition's trial and imprisonment of Galileo in 1663 on heresy charges. If the earth revolves around the sun, then geocentrism fails scrutiny and the creation story with it, so Galileo had to be silenced. Heliocentrism was banned by the Catholic Church until 1758, although volumes explaining the concept remained on the list of forbidden books until 1835. It wasn't until 1992 that Galileo was ultimately pardoned of his heresy charges. So, when Pope Francis spoke at the plenary assembly of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, which had gathered in the Vatican to discuss evolving concepts of nature, his recognition that evolution and the Big Bang Theory are facts made headlines. According to the Pope's interpretation of reality, evolution in nature is not inconsistent with the notion of creation, because evolution requires the creation of beings that evolve. The Pope described a chaotic universe created by a benevolent and loving God who included rules which scientists called constants. These rules, the Pope explained, led to the coalescing of galaxies and solar systems. They also provided for a system guided by a divine hand which allowed humanity and all other life to develop on Earth. This is not exactly totally new thinking for the Catholic Church. Pope Pius XII in 1950 and later Pope John Paul II in 1996 had strongly suggested that evolution theory does not contradict Catholic teaching, and Benedict XVI embraced intelligent design in 2005. Today the Church has a Pope that says the Big Bang cosmology and evolutionary theory don't contradict the intervention of a divine creator, but demands it. There's been no word on how or even whether the Pope plans to reconcile his assertion that God did not create the world in 6 days and that a man evolved from apes in Africa and not from an unwed couple made of dirt in Eden, with the following quote from the Catechism of the RCC. "By his sin, Adam, as the first man, lost the original holiness and justice which he had received from God, not only for himself but for all humans. Adam and Eve transmitted to their descendants human nature wounded by their first sin and hence deprived of original holiness and justice. This deprivation is called original sin. As a result of original sin, human nature is weakened in its powers, subject to ignorance, suffering, and the domination of death, and inclined to sin."